Howdy folks, Little John in the kitchen, brewing up a brew. We're doing a kit-based Pilsner today. Basically doing a rice lager with a little bit of experiment, which is not entirely surprising for Little John, is it? But before we get into it, as always, thank you to the Patreons of Little John's. Cheers guys, thanks for your support. If you haven't subscribed to Little John's, hit the button down there in the corner. Come along for the ride. We brew beer, we drink beer, we talk beer. Plenty happening, plenty going on, plenty to learn and see. So if you're not involved already, get involved. Today's brew, rice lager, kit based. Main reason doing a kit beer is I'm just going to split this batch up and give half to my youngest brother and half to my father-in-law. Get this one done before I settle in to do a all grain. I'm going to do an all grain rice lager on the Brew, on the Brewzilla in the next couple of weeks. But I want to get this one done, and I want to do a bit of an experiment. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, and that's the lager fermenting cold versus fermenting warm. There's been a lot of talk about it, what you need to do. Lagers always freak people out, and it takes too long and it's too much mucking around and you need heaps of yeast and all the rest of it. And there's been a few places, a few different mobs that have done experiments, and there's a lot of talk that you can do a lager ferment with lager yeast at elevated temperatures, and up around the 18-degree mark, around same temperatures you'd be doing an ale at, and people can't tell any difference. Now, I personally find that really hard to believe, but I can't say for sure unless I've done it. So here we are. So before I get too far into it, I'm going to pour myself a beer. It's Friday afternoon at Little John's. I've got all the work done. I'm sitting back. So getting all the gear out, and I'm looking for a beer, and I found tucked away in the back of the fridge a bottle of the Brut lager, which is a split batch with the Brut IPA, which I did back, actually last year. I just checked the dates, and it was brewed back in May last year, so it's just over 12 months old. It's a long neck. That'll get me going for the afternoon, get me through this brew, no problem. Now I'm just a little bit worried about whether this is going to, how this is going to respond when I crack it. So I'm going to just stick the bottle here in the sink, off screen, so if something stupid happens, you're not going to actually catch it. But she wasn't overly gassed, which is a good start. There's a little bit of a gas off there, but nothing too crazy. Alarm's going in the background. I'll just shut that off. Get this beer poured, and we'll talk about where we're up to. So if you haven't seen this one, this was flow on from a few discussions around brewed IPAs we're getting around the middle of last year. I sort of had a bit of a spit and a chat about the style, and I split a batch. I'll put a link up to the to one of the videos, probably the brew day. Maybe not the rent, but anyway. This is I'm pretty sure this is the last bottle that's floating around. This is the lager I did. So let's let him. She's fizzed up a bit. We'll just let him sit for a bit. So let's just talk about this brew. So rice lager. So I'm starting with a can of Black Rock, just blonde Pilsner, European dry Pilsner. Well, it says a European style dry lager. So That's our base. I'm also using some Black Rock ultralight malt, which I've already cracked open because I've got some over on the stove. We'll discuss that in a second. And the rice on this one is coming from this rice malt syrup, which is just from Woolies. I've got 2 jars, so I'll be going a kilo in the batch. And this is just pure brown rice, supposedly. So, looking at it, it's about 57% sugar, about 80% carbohydrate. So it's on par with just normal malt as far as fermentability goes. So it's probably not as fermentable as using rice and doing a cereal mash or using flaked rice. I'll be using flaked rice in the all grain, so that's going to be sort of a bit of a comparison as well to see how the rice compares in that compared to this. But that's not the real focus today. As I said, the focus is splitting the batch. I'll quickly touch on that. So what I'm going to be doing is using S189 because supposedly this is one of the most tolerant lager yeast of temperature. It has been compared a little bit to California Common, so that's what we're doing. So I'm going to put this batch together, then I will split it into 2 fermenters. One fermenter will go into the fermentation fridge set at 11 degrees with 1 packet of S189. I'm not going to go and rehydrate today. No starters or anything. I'm probably a little bit going against my own recommendations, but again, this is a kit beer and I want to see how the kit itself really goes. So I'm going with what is still way more yeast than what the kit give me. The yeast on this kit was a 5 gram packet, so I'm pitching 4 times as much yeast as what the kit would have had anyway, even though I still believe I will be under pitching to the lager, but that's how it is. And the other packet will go into the other half, which will sit on the bench in the garage, and it's sitting between sort of 16 and 20 degrees at the moment, depending on how cold it gets overnight, but it's reasonable. It's in that high teens, so I think that's going to work well. It's not going to push any higher, so it's not going to go too crazy. So I'm also adding some hops, and this is where this pot comes in. In the pot there I've got I don't have 7 litres, I had 7 litres of water. I've added to that about half of the can of the malt, and that would have given us about 1036, 1040 gravity, which is perfect for a boil to utilise hops. Now, looking online tells me that can is only going to give me about 13 or 14 IBU in the final beer. That's piss weak. So I don't know how Black Rock can possibly say that a European Pilsner has 14 IBUs. That's just crazy, but that's how it is. So I'm boosting this up. I want to get up to around 28 to 30. So I've run the numbers through the spreadsheet, through Ian H's spreadsheet. If you haven't got it, go online and find it. It's a really good bit of gear for kit brewers. Okay. So I've put 25 grams of Czech SARS into the boil, and that has been boiling now for what will be coming up on 50 minutes. Here I have, that's going to get me about another 14 IBU, 12 to 14. And then here I have lemon drop, courtesy of old mate Kev Bristol at the hopping mechanism. It's very powdery. I don't know if any of it's actually going to stay in this bag. It's possibly a waste of time even using it. It's probably all going to end up in the pot, but we'll see how we go. And there it goes. That's going to go for 10 minutes. 20 grams of lemon drop. And that's going to get me about another 4 IBU. And let me just scoop up what has ended up on the bench there. This is that's basically powder, what Kev said, because that lemon drop. I've had a lemon drop before, but he got on me and he said he had a whole bunch of it sitting around from when he packed up a few batches. So he asked me if I wanted it. I said, certainly do. So he sent it along, so it's actual, it is full powder. But does the job. So can of Pilsner, I'm just going to stick in the sink here in a little bit of hot water. Just to soften it up a little bit. Hops are underway. I'm going to give them another 10 minutes. Let that lemon drop do its thing. And I'll come back and we're going to add our malts into that pot and we'll get them into the fermenter. So it's still quite drinkable, not after a year. It's lost a little bit of the top punch. Picked up a little bit of honey note. So quite nice. Anyway, so I was going to get the fermenter out, get it ready. Give the can time to sit, give that 10 minutes, come back and throw it together. Okay, we're just about done with that boil. I wanted 10 minutes for the lemon drop, but I'm going to pull the heat off now. It's got 2 minutes to go because I've got to get all the malt into here and mixed in before it goes to the fermenter. So a little bit extra heat in there is going to finish off what I want to get out of them hops. And sort of 5 to 10 minutes is plenty to get some nice flavour out of that lemon drop. It's just to give it a little bit, just that tiny little bit extra interest on the back of the palate when you're drinking this. I don't want to overpowering. It's not a lemon drop focus. It's just a smidge. So we've got our tins going, soaking, getting softened up. Put the rice malt in there as well. Don't know how it's going to be to work with. In the past I've used rice malt which I bought from like an Asian grocer, and it was very, very hard. This stuff was quite soft in the jar. I opened it up before and just had a go at it. So it's nothing like this stuff from the Asian grocer was. So I'm just going to pull these hot bags out, just get them out of the way. Just let them run off a bit. Not too worried about getting everything out of them right now. It's going to sit for a little bit and then I'll drain this juice back into the fermenter. I just want to get them out of the way for the moment. I'll put it under the camera there, you might be able to smell it. Is it working? You're just going to get clouds of steam now in front of you. That's not good. Righto. So this is boiled down. There's probably only about 5 litres in there now at the moment. So we'll start with the malt because it's open. And just pour it in and mix it through. So this will make life a bit easier. If you can do this with your kits, it does make it easier to mix if you can do it in this hot water. And as we discussed before, I mean, a bit of a hot boil and some extra grains or some extra malt it's going to help your kits out anyway, so it's not a bad idea to be doing this sort of thing. Okay, I had a can opener here somewhere. What did I do with it? There it is. Alright, so we'll get into this kit of Black Rock Pilsner Blonde. Now, I don't use Black Rock too often. Actually, it's been bloody a very, very long time since I've actually used a Black Rock kit. And by a long time I mean like over 20 years. The last time I used the Black Rock kit was back when I first brewed in my 20s. So it's been a while. I can't get hold of them locally. I've got to get them shipped in, so I've never bothered. But I wanted to step away from, you know, the Cooper's kits just for a change. And I actually, there was also another motive. I was getting a can of the Morgan's ginger beer extract, so I can do ginger beer and do the same thing. I can't get Morgan's in town, so been wanting to do Kingsley's ginger beer, and I've made 2 ginger beers with different bases because I haven't been able to get the Morgan's, sort of roughly following his recipe, and I thought it was time I actually did it properly. So that will be coming in the coming weeks as well. I had originally planned on doing it today, but with a few things that are going on today, I've got a few things happening. So it's made that difficult. I wasn't looking at the time. So this is where we've ended up today. But I think the Black Rock is a lighter brew than certainly than the Cooper's European lager. And I think from looking at the description and the numbers, it is even possibly pushing more towards the sort of Canadian blonde. But we'll see how we go. So this rice has come out reasonably easy, just getting the last bits out there. That's one in. Yeah. It's sweet, but it's not super sweet. It says on the jar, you know, ideal as a replacement for honey, and it does have a sort of honey sort of a taste, but not quite at the same time. It doesn't quite have the sweetness. So it is quite light. So I have had a few people comment about the flavour that's been left from using this rice syrup. One comment that it left a strong flavour that wasn't nice. Someone else has commented that it left their beer very sweet. Now, I sort of don't really get how that could happen. The sugars in there should ferment out. The sugars in there should be whatever sugars there are, should be completely fermentable. So I can understand to some degree it leaving flavour, but I certainly don't get that it would be leaving any sugars, like any sweetness. It's like using honey. It really, any of that sweetness should ferment out. So that's a little bit of an unknown area. So that's done. Mixed. Do that last one, stir through. I've got a fairly sizable pot here. It's going to be iffy pouring on there. I might just grab a chair. might go initially in there at a lower height. I'll bring it up here to top it up. Okay. There's a fair bit of edge on that, but I mean, it's probably only maybe 7 or 8 litres in there now, so I'm thinking that's going to certainly cut back a bit. There's no sign of any gunge or any leftovers in there. I was concerned when I first put the malt in. I bought the boil. There was a lot of floaties, there seemed to be a lot of gunk in the actual malt, which is unusual because normally when you boil malt it's very clear. So I did worry there was going to be a bit of crud, but that seemed to be quite alright. But that's in, so 5, 6, 7, yeah, about 7, a bit over 7.5 litres in there at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to top this up to 23 litres, and then I will split this into two 15 litre fermenters. So I'm not going to show that on video, you've seen that plenty of times. As always, I will give this a good thrashing as I go, as I add the water. And because I've got this 7 litre, I'm not going to get this is not going to get the pitching temp with cold water. I've not actually put anything in the fridge, so I'm just running off tap water. My tap water is good and cold at the moment, but I think this is probably still going to finish it somewhere in the low 30s. So I will top this up. I will get it into the ferment fridge and just get it cool down to about 18 degrees, and then I will split it, and then I'll get some yeast onto it. So I'm going to come back once I've sort of split it, and we'll have a look at, and I'm going to talk some gravities and wrap it up. Righto, let's wrap this up. Got both of these in their split fermenter. After I shut the video off just before, I got the hot bags and squeezed all the juice out of them. Got all the extra all that extra flavour and stuff into here, so I didn't lose any of it. So I was pretty happy with that. Now these have been in the fridge for probably maybe an hour and a half. Dogs. And it's down to about 22 degrees. It's currently sitting on about 19 here in the garage, so I'm happy to get these settled and going. That's within 3 degrees for the yeast, so that's not going to cause any shock or any problems. So we'll get a hydrometer reading and see where we're sitting. Now I don't really know where I was expecting to get here. No calculation. I couldn't find any online stuff that actually has allowances for any sort of rice syrup. So closest I could estimate was that we're going to get a reasonably high strength beer, and that certainly looks like the case. It's probably stronger than what I was really liking looking at that. That's showing at about 1056. So 5.5. I'm not too worried about that. That's not too bad. 24. Yeah, so we'll go with that. Original gravity of 1056. So as I said, we go on the one packet of the S189 in both. They're 11. One's 11 litres, one's probably close to 12. I didn't quite get a proper split. So close enough to a gram a litre. So I'm happy with that. It'll do us. Too much trouble. I'm just going to sprinkle, and as I said before, this is not my recommended method, but I'm going with it today. So got that in, we'll just let that work its way in. I'll get a airlock. Some sanitizer in there. This one doesn't seal anyway, that's the ROM, it's a bit bloody worn out, but anyway, it's in there. So that's it. And I'm going to let it do its thing. Now, normally when if I was doing this sort of thing, I'd like to take daily gravity readings and check the brews just so I can see how they're comparing, particularly with cold versus warm. But I'm going to Wollongong tomorrow, back down to see the daughter, spend another week down there. So I'm not going to be able to do that. I won't see these. It's going to be another week before I get home. So I would expect that this fella's going to sit out on the bench. It's probably going to be done in that time. I don't know for sure, but I would assume that the lager yeast is going to ferment in relatively similar times to an ale yeast, and it'll be finished in that 7 days. The lager will certainly not be finished in 7 days, at which point though I will bump up the temperature, by probably about 4 degrees, get up to about 15, and let it finish off and cold crash, and I'll bottle them independently when they're ready. So we'll don't know exactly what that's going to be, but I would expect that I'll be bottling this one at ambient probably 2 weeks from today, and I would expect that the actual fridge one will probably take closer to 3 weeks by the time I do a de-rest, let it finish, and then do a cold crash. So this one obviously will not get a cold crash because it's just going to be sitting here on the bench. So I may gelatin it just to drop some crap out of it. We'll see. I'm not a big fan of gelatin, but normally only because I do a cold crash. So about the cold crash, I'll have a look at it. I'll take some samples, see how it is, how clear it is. That's there at the moment. She's fairly clear. Let's get that out and have a bit of a taste and see what we're looking at. And I said I was concerned about the bitterness level. It did seem to be quite nice from the boil, but it's been watered down a bit since then. Oh no, there's a nice good amount of hops there. Nice. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that tastes like it's in a good spot. So no dramas there. I'm pretty happy with that. So that's a rice lager from the Black Rock can with the cold versus warm lager ferment experiment to go along with it. So that's me done. So as always, if you've got any questions, stick them down the bottom. Any comments down the bottom there, put them in there. Happy to respond. Again, Patreons, cheers. Appreciate your help, your support. If you haven't subscribed to Little John's, and I don't know why you haven't, if you're sitting there watching and you're not subscribed, bloody hit the button down there in the corner. Get notified so you know what's going on, so you don't miss anything. But other than that, that's me, Little John. I'm done. It's Friday arvo. I'm having a couple more beers. First of all, I'm going to get this other half of this out, get some yeast on it, and get it temperature set. That's me. So until I see you again, we're drinking beer, talking beer, or brewing beer. Good brewing.